Arnold and I feel very honoured to be here tonight, celebrating our school's 25 years. Back in 1981, in a tiny Serbian church hall in Monavale, 38 students, one teacher, a teacher's aide and pastor, embarked on the dream that is now Northern Beaches Christian School. Thank you for joining us tonight. It must be amazing to see how far this tiny school has come. Tell us about that very first year and what it was like.
So this is your life. Oh dear. The very first year was in the Serbian Church Hall in Vineyard Street in Monavale, and a lot of the names you heard tonight. So there was Jeff and Eddie and Bruce, me. Peter came the next year. But some of these guys had to, I've got to keep this very short. Some of these guys we had to go and meet someone in their lessons. And it was a tremendous thing to see children learning from year 3 through to year 12. 40 kids, all different classes, with one teacher, David Miles, and with Jenny Lewis, who was the teacher's assistant, and with parents helping. I was the principal, which is the biggest joke of all. And I even that year taught 4th grade Australian history. I learned it the day before. And all you had to do was stay one day ahead of the class, and that was fun. But that first year, that was a wonderful year, but then at the end of that year, we had to move because the Serbian Orthodox Church was being sold. So at one of the big combined carnivals for Christian schools, which we were at, and we'd done very well. It was in September, there were only 3 terms in those days, and we'd done well, and Jeff Tonge came to me with a little note when all the prizes were being handed out, and he said, "Paul, we've got a block of land in Terry Hills for next year's school. We've been looking at a block, and we got a block." You probably want to ask another question now.
Parent and then a member of staff, please join me as we welcome Jen Fuse to the stage.
Welcome, Jan. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed this evening and giving us an insight into NBCS as a parent and a member of the staff.
It's Northern Beaches Christian School. So we attended an interview in 1983, and we actually took our 3 children, Melanie, who was going into year 7, Rachel, who was going into year 3, and Stephen, who was starting kindergarten in 1984. And we had our initial interview with Peter Carbless, and that went very well. And then we were surprised to find that we had to have a second interview. We thought, oh dear, what have we slipped up on there? But anyway, that went well too, and we were accepted into the school. We're quite delighted about that. So I think that's really how we come to go to the school.
Did your children work in the chorals as Paul mentioned?
Yes, indeed, they did. The chorales were a new way of learning for our children, especially the girls, because they'd been at state primary school. But it wasn't all work in the chorales. There was some face-to-face teaching. In those days, funds were very short, and of course parent help was in great demand. And whilst I was working part-time, on my days off I'd go down and help the teacher, Mrs. Lindy Dickinson at the time, in the 2, 3, 4 composite class. There were 2 students in the year 2, and I can remember very vividly, there was a boy and a girl, I think it was Brock Tomasi and Susie Nichols, who seemed to be so full of beans that I spent most of my time trying to keep them in their seat. But the system, of course, was to raise the flag if you needed help, and so that's what I used to do, go along and help the students. I think at the end of 1984, that first year that our girls were there were about 96 students. I can recall being asked to go in the office one day because the new electric typewriter had arrived and no one knew how to turn it on. So that was the school's first piece of technology.
They're a huge icebreaker for the students. What was it like taking the whole school on camp?
Well, just use your imagination. I've never been to a co-ed school. I went to a Catholic boarding college, which was a rugby college, and the only physical contact we had with anything was a football and another boy. But I saw partnerships happen in this first week of school, at the school camp. And Peter Carlos taught me some things. He said, "You watch it, Paul." He said, we're going to see at this camp all the engagements. At Easter, you're going to get the marriages. September, all the divorces. And he was dead right. That's what happened. Peter and I were interviewing in that first year a couple by the name of Bill and Fran. They had two boys that had been to a Catholic school, a high school in the area, and they said, "We want our boys to come to this great school. We hear you've got a new block of land and getting a new school." And we said, "Yeah, that's fine." And they said to Peter, "You're the principal?" He said, "Yes, he is the principal." They said, "Where is the school?" And he said, "It's in 111 Barali Road, just down the road." We were meeting in somebody's front bedroom because we didn't have an office. They had just moved house. We couldn't use their garage because, like every other house in the street, it was full of junk. So we had to use their front bedroom. Bill and Fran came in very quietly. Pete and I used very loud voices to make sure that they felt that we weren't hiding anything. Anyway, when they said, "Where is the school?" Pete said, "It's at the block of land down at 111 Barali Road." They said, "Yes, we've been there." And there was no school there. Pete said, "Oh, there will be." And Pete looked at me, "When do you think, Paul?" And I said, "Well, as soon as school starts." He said, "We have to buy the school, we have to buy the multiple buildings." The long and the short of it was, buying demountable buildings is not like buying a car or a house. You just don't go into a shop and buy them. You have to have them built. And it took 12 weeks, and this was December, and school was starting in February. When February came, we still didn't have the demountable school. But we had the vision, and we had the students, and we had a lot of new enrollments, and we had a lot of faith. And so we said to the United Church, and that's what Jan was saying, we said to the United Church people, "Can we borrow your church hall just through the week?" We've done it with the Serbian Orthodox, why not the United? We just want it through the week so that we can have school. Only for 3 or 4 weeks, 12 weeks later, it's going back to sort of December, January, the end of March, I think it was, March into April, we finally got down onto the school. But during that time, one funny thing happened. We used to cram about 70 or 80 kids into one tiny Uniting Church hall with the chorales. But we didn't realise when we booked the church hall for the week that every Tuesday there was a jazz ballet class. So one morning, parents dropped their kids off and one mum forgot something. And we used to have to get the kids out by 10 for the jazz ballet class to come in for an hour and a half. And we would do excursions. There'd be a shopping excursion, walking in the park excursion. But we did the excursions, and this mum came back, she'd forgotten something, she brought it back to the child, and there were these ladies, "What had you done to my children?" We were able to get through all that with a lot of great teamwork and wonderful parents like you that are so supportive of Christian school. Inspiring people to do something for their families and for the community. So school with cyclones, with all kinds of challenges and crises, mistakes. Could I talk one night about all of them? The mistakes, the things that God said, "I know your hearts," and He's taken the school and you're blessed to be in great hands with the staff and principal and the people who have there, and knowing that God's looking after all. Thanks, guys.